Welcome back. Previously, we created a component to track tasks for a user to complete. The next piece is to add the functionality that lets a user officially mark a task as completed. So completing a task means removing the task from the original tasks array, and then adding it to the CompleteTask array, essentially moving it from tasks to completed tasks. To set this up, we're going to create a new helper method called CompleteTask. Underneath add task, make a new helper method called CompleteTask, and this is going to have a completed task input. All right. Eventually, we're going to attach this CompleteTask helper method to every single item that is being mapped and returned within the tasks list. So that way, when you click on it, you complete the task itself. For starters, in this function, we can add the task to the completed tasks array. So let's say we're going to set the completed tasks to a new array that consists of everything in the completed tasks array, but we're also going to add the completed tasks, or rather the completed task input. All right. You'll notice that this looks very similar to the set tasks that we have above. So this takes care of adding this completed tasks to the completed task array. But now we also have to take care of the removal of the completed task from the original task array too. So we can't modify the local task array, but what we can do is generate a new filtered array of tasks that consists of every single task but the completed one. So let's call set tasks, and we're going to generate a new filtered array by calling the filter function on arrays. We're going to go look at one task at a time, and we're only going to include in this filter tasks whose ID does not match the completed task ID. So overall, this condition creates an array of results that consists of every single task in the original task array whose ID doesn't match the completed task ID. All right. So on a click of each task, we're going to want to fire now this CompleteTask method. So on the overall div, let's attach an onClick handler. So on a click of this, let's refer to the fact that we want to complete the task. Now, to actually make sure that this has a completed task input, well, let's go ahead and call the function and then pass in the task object itself. Let's also expand this out so it's a little more readable. Make sure I have a closing pair of parentheses, and then I can put this on its own line, and I recommend structuring it similarly as well. Now, there's something tricky about this though. Notice that this CompleteTask method is now being called inline within the JSX. After all, we're using a pair of parentheses to call the function and then pass in the task. Now, this is dangerous because now when the component function is called, this CompleteTask method is going to fire right away as soon as the render occurs. This will fire then the setter functions within CompleteTask right away as well, which is going to re-trigger a render coming across this line of CompleteTask once more. So again, it's going to call set tasks and set CompleteTask, re-triggering another render since some state has changed, again calling CompleteTask, etc. And now you get in this infinite loop situation. So within the onClick handler, in order for it to work, React needs a reference to a function, not the called function itself. So as a solution to avoid this infinite loop scenario, we can have CompleteTask return a function reference itself. So the end result is going to be a function, and you do this with the double arrow syntax. So when you call CompleteTask and pass in CompleteTask, the return result is now actually an entire function, which has its CompleteTask value within the set completed tasks and set tasks lines. Nice. In addition, so that we can do some debugging, let's have a console.log of completed tasks, first in a string and then the actual value next, after the existing console.log of tasks. Okay, so once you have all of that, if you don't have the application running already in the command line, then go ahead and start it up with npm run start, and then check out the app on the browser. So immediately you should see a log of tasks and completed tasks, which is empty. Go ahead and add a task. So go ahead and add it. Still completed tasks is empty, but notice that when you click on the task now, it shows up in the completed task array in the logs. So now CompleteTask has that existing task object, and now the task array is empty as well. Cool. Now it's even more apparent because it gets removed from the document itself. You can no longer see the task within the application. So let's render the completed tasks in their own list. Now that we know that it's working, we're going to have another div, and the class name for this is going to be CompleteTask, or rather completed list. The index.css file is ready to apply changes to a div with this class name. Like above, we're going to map over all the completed tasks one at a time. Let's map over each one, calling them the task. Again, we're going to destructure the ID and the task text from the relevant task. And now we're going to return a div that applies the key as the ID. Make sure I have the closing div over here. And then in the curly braces for the actual content, we can apply the task text. All right, very cool. So let's take a look back in the application now. Go ahead and add a task, foo, bar, and when you complete one, look at that, it's grayed out with a more opaque gray color for the completed task. Very cool. And as you click each one, they're all going to be grayed out as they're completed. Nice. As a last bit of functionality, one thing a user might want to do is completely remove a task from the list. If they no longer want to keep the task around, let's provide a button that they can click that will delete the task. So within here, we're going to add a span with a class name of DeleteTask. So let's have the class name of DeleteTask, and then the actual content for this span is going to be a little x. Let's actually place this on its own line. Now, to make sure that React doesn't remove the white space between the task text and the span, let's actually hardcode a string value, which will provide some separation. On a click of this span, let's call a function called DeleteTask. And we're going to pass in the task object itself. Like CompleteTask above, since we're calling DeleteTask on the line right away, we need to set up a double arrow function syntax. So this one is going to be DeleteTask, and then the input for this is going to be the task to delete. Cool. So the idea is to completely remove the task that the user selected from the setCompletedTask, or rather the CompleteTask array. So we need to call setCompletedTasks. And again, we can use the filter function to filter out the existing task from the CompleteTask array. So let's say that we're going to reference each task one t at a time, and we're going to make sure to only include t objects whose ID is not equal to the passed in task.id. So this completes, or rather creates, an array of the completed tasks, which filters out the passed in task to the DeleteTask method. Once you have that, go ahead and save the file, then check out the change in the browser in your application. Go ahead and add a couple tasks, complete them. Now there's that X button, and as you click on it, they get removed. Cool. So that's it. The task component is set up to add tasks, complete them, and then completely remove them later. And looking back, it was a pretty compact setup overall. It's only around 60 or so lines, depending on whether or not you count the console logs and new lining for the JSX. But the main takeaway is that we have a component with state split up into 3 separate useState hooks. With these multiple useState lines, we can do an even deeper investigation into how hooks work under the hood by experimenting with these lines. So let's do that investigation in the next one. Hey, if you're enjoying this content, be sure to head to the full course at udemy.com/reacthooks tutorial. Since you're coming from YouTube, I'm giving you access to the course at the max discount Udemy lets me create. I've posted details in the video description, and be sure to visit my website at davidtkatz.com as well, where you can find links to connect with me. All right, see you in the next one.